Well, it is 10 a.m. in New York City, where testimony has wrapped up in Donald Trump's civil fraud trial. The case is now adjourned for the holidays, and the former president and his company are accused of falsely inflating their net worth.
The judge has already found Trump and his adult sons and business liable. He will now decide how much they have to pay in damages and if they can continue doing business in New York. And CBS News reporter Katrina Kaufman joins us now here in Studio 57 to talk about the trial and the impending verdict. So both sides are expecting to present closing arguments on January 11th. When could that lead to a ruling?
Sure. So both sides will do their closing arguments on January 11th, and before that, they're going to submit briefings. The judge has indicated that it'll take him a few weeks to make a ruling, so I would say maybe late January.
Okay. So, late January for this civil trial, Trump not being able to potentially do business in New York City, the Trump name. In your experience, just having him in the courtroom when he has been, how important is this resolution to him? How much is he valuing less value to however this verdict comes out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess one thing I'll add is that his legal team has made it clear that they expect that this ruling will go against them, and they're planning to appeal. So in reality, I don't think this case is really closing anytime soon. And I think this case, it's super personal to Trump. He's been in the courtroom quite a few times. I think I've heard that he talks about this case more than any of his others. And, you know, he's built his name on being a businessman and a real estate mogul in New York. And a ruling like this, I think it would just really, really hurt him personally.
So Trump's team called their final expert witness to the stand. There's some reporting out there about how much this expert may have gotten paid to make this appearance. But what can you tell us about what was brought up?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I did some of that reporting. He made almost $900,000 testifying. And I think that's not even including his full testimony. So honestly, It could be even higher. Yeah, these numbers are pretty astonishing. Yeah. But, you know, he was a very Trumpian witness in his own right. He said that he found no evidence of accounting fraud. He was very complimentary of Trump's financial statements. And Trump was in the court for one of these days, and he just seemed absolutely riveted by this testimony.
Oh, really?
He talked about how they were the most detailed financial statements he'd ever seen. He complimented the footnotes. So really, he was very much in favor of Trump in this case.
Well, no surprise there.
Yes, no surprise there. And the Attorney General's team basically insinuated that because he was being paid so much, he was really just saying whatever they wanted, which prompted the witness to actually start yelling in the courtroom. So it's been
theatrics.
Yeah, there's been a lot of theatrics in that courtroom.
Knowing when you learned that Trump himself was not going to testify in this case, I saw some on Twitter saying this is sort of what they expected. They knew it would never happen. I was surprised just because the date was so close to arriving. What was your reaction to his choice not to do that? What were are the ramifications in the case?
Sure. I mean, honestly, I think it was probably a smart move. He did testify for the prosecution, so he has been on the stand in this case before. And, you know, no surprise, he was not the most in-line witness. Multiple times, the judge had to ask his lawyers to ask him to stop giving political speeches, to really answer the question. So I think, especially with the gag order still in place, his team was trying to get that lifted before he testified. They were unable to, and Trump later posted that that's why he didn't want to get back on the stand. So I think it was most surprising he just said it the day before, because that had already been determined the previous week.
So, of course, the former president has all sorts of legal things going on. I want to ask you about another case that he's facing. It has to do with January 6th. So the prosecutor, Jack Smith, has asked the Supreme Court to quickly deal with a case having to do with whether or not the president has immunity and cannot be prosecuted, right? Normally, this case would be going through the lower courts, working the way up. So the prosecutor's like, you know, can you guys just let's go directly to the Supreme Court and get it done because we got a March date.
Yeah.
So, you know, tell us more about sort of the impact of the timing, why it's important to deal with this particular issue as quickly as possible.
Sure. I mean, this is a very important issue, and depending on whether the Supreme Court decides to take up the case, I mean, if they did and they said that Trump is in fact immune from prosecution, that would totally obliterate Jack Smith's case. So it could have really big ramifications. And I think no matter what, it seems very likely that this is going to delay the trial. I mean, this March 4th date is really in jeopardy at this point, whether the Supreme Court takes it up or whether they send it back to the Court of Appeals.
Is a ton of what Trump's legal team in the various cases, is a ton of what they're doing to try and delay?
Yep.
Delays are their friend, right? We have the election coming up, and they don't want any of these charges potentially to be exposed beforehand.
Absolutely. I mean, even I think it was just yesterday, Trump's team asked the Court of Appeals not to expedite the proceedings, which is what Jack Smith has wanted. And they even, I think, characterized Jack Smith as the Grinch who stole Christmas for kind of trying to ruin their timelines with everything. But yeah, I think all of the tactics are really to try and delay, try to push these cases until after the election.
Katrina Kaufman, thank you so much for joining us today and for your expertise on these subjects. We appreciate it.